Hello and welcome to the Triple B podcast. We are the Buds Bustin' Balls. I am your current host, Bauer Tendo. I am the man who never half-asses two things, but whole-asses one thing. That's who I am. Next to me here, we have Celiac_Matt, or you could just call him Matt, the man who never finishes video games, ever, because it's against his religion.
It's true.
And below me here, the super bottom today, which is normally my position, is Scott Stevens, a.k.a. Hero Omega Man, a.k.a. SM Stevens Streams, for that one day that he will stream his Sega Saturn stuff one day. The man who is never content with anything, so instead of trying to fix it, he just yells at you about it. This is the Buds Bustin' Balls. And so the topic we're going to be talking about today, this is going to be a cool one. And maybe we'll be kind of aging ourselves here, showing a little bit of our age here, is what are our favorite Saturday morning cartoons? Before we get started, I gotta ask, what are you playing? What are you drinking? So you guys fight amongst yourselves, because I'm not the boss of you. Rochambeau it.
1, 2, 3, scissors. Rock. This is going terrible. I like that.
Yeah, go. Just go, man.
Just
go,
go, scissors.
Hey, I won. My plan worked. Make Scott so awkward and uncomfortable, he'll give it to me. Hi, what I am drinking. Actually, no, I'm going to start with gaming. What I am playing, I just recently beat Final Fantasy 16. Had a great time with that game. I really did. Don't know if I'll replay it, even though there's DLC coming out, but I had a blast with it. Solid 8 out of 10. And then I also beat this short little indie game that was hilarious and fun and just a nice little puzzle game called Donut County. I know Bauer has played it. It was superb. I had so much fun with that game. That's what I've been playing. What I am drinking is H2O, yeah. And if I sip it just right and you zoom in on the mustache, you might find some water droplets in there. Let's see.
I think I saw him.
Usually you'd have to pay good money on Fans Only to see action like that.
Fans Only, the knockoff of OnlyFans.
Damn it.
That's a big bopper.
I just boppered myself.
That's my Fans Only account, the Big Bopper.
Oh my.
Hey Scott, how about you, dude?
From what I hear, it's more of like, slightly below average bopper. But anyhow.
Penis
And
joke.
now we get quiet.
Yeah, I'm quiet because my cat's chewing on cables behind my computer, so I'm going to deal with that. But Scott, you should.
Yeah, that sounds kind of dangerous. I will buy us time while you take care of the situation.
Yeah, tell us your drink and game.
I have just finished No More Heroes Triss. Fantastic game for me. It's one of those games where I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. Probably not many people I would recommend that game for, but it hit all the right spots for me. Half the time I did not know what was going on, and that was okay. There is still a lot to do in that game, and I don't care to do it, though. I don't need to go and get S rankings on all the missions. So, had a great time. Game is officially done. I've moved on. Maybe one day I'll go back to it. Who knows? Really enjoying the Halloween event right now that just started in Fortnite. And I'm actually about ready to get into my spoopy game, though, of the month, Bloodborne. So, kind of a little bit of a random, dark horse game on that one, but I'm pretty excited to go.
This makes me so happy. That makes me so happy. If you need help or advice, just let me know.
It was pretty rough. Like, I actually tried playing it last year, and I played it immediately after I was done with Elden Ring because I enjoyed Elden Ring so much, and it's not a very easy transition going from Elden Ring to that game. But yeah, I'm still excited for it. Anyway, for what I'm drinking today, you just see me drink Canada Dry before. Well, prepare yourself for Canada Dry Cranberry Ginger Ale, because we are skipping Halloween and Thanksgiving and going straight to the Christmas flavors, baby.
I actually am a big fan of that stuff. That's very good.
That's some good cranberry right there. The ginger's all right, too.
What about you, Mike?
That's just all right. And also, just so that you know, Scott, If you wanted to transition a little bit better to Bloodborne, I actually recommend one of the games that I'm playing right now, which is Lies of P, which is on Game Pass. That's how I'm playing it. And that is way more. Now, the problem is that there's so many quality of life things in Lies of P that are not in Bloodborne that you may go back and be like, dude, it may ruin Bloodborne for you, so maybe you need to play Bloodborne first. But I'm playing Lies of P. It is phenomenal. I am loving the game so much. It is the right amount of difficulty. It's hard. I've died, but I don't feel like the jank is getting me, like the bad stuff is getting me that From Software Games has.
The
jank.
You gotta watch out for the jank.
The jank is so bad, but it is so good. It is so good. So I'm playing that, and being the racing guy that I am with all sorts of motorsports, Forza Motorsport released. That game kicks all sorts of ass. I played it right when it came out yesterday or Monday night. Played a little bit last night. I was dead tired, but played a little bit today. Great stuff. Love that game. Good stuff. So that's what I'm playing right now. Outside of the typical multiplayer, the Fortnites and stuff. That just goes without saying. Those are every day. And what I'm drinking tonight is coffee from a crock.
It's a crock fee.
Damn it, beat me to it. Low hanging fruit on that one.
I love that both of you went to the same exact thing.
Listen, we share a brain cell quite often.
Mm-hmm. Sadly,
Does that?
I wonder sometimes who gets the raw end of the deal on that one.
My wife having to deal with me.
I think that's a good answer.
That is the correct answer. So for those that are listening, not watching, Bauer literally is drinking out of a crock. We saw it. It was stupendous.
It really is.
It happened. Come watch the YouTube videos if you're not. You're going to kick out of that one.
My question is that your crock or somebody else's crock?
That is somebody else. I actually do not own any Crocs. I just wear sandals. I want my feet.
So you just steal other people's Crocs to drink out of. That's what I'm.
Whose crock is it?
I don't know.
I just found it on the side of the road.
I was driving home and I found it on the side, so I picked it up and I thought that's good to drink out of.
Anyhow, let's move into the topic now.
So that being said, today's topic, to recap, our favorite Saturday morning cartoons. So when we, the buds, were younger, we were growing up.
Before life busted our balls.
Before life busted our balls. And I'm gonna get off my lawn, you right now, listener and viewer. We didn't have the luxury of on-demand streaming and just having all of this entertainment at our fingertips. We could literally sit there. We have TVs that have it built in now. We can access the internet. We have these freaking things. We didn't have any of that stuff. So if you missed it, that's it. That's it. So that being said, we would have to gather around the TV at certain times on certain days, and we'd watch these cartoons. We'd watch these shows. So, I mean, being a kid, I didn't watch adult movies. I didn't watch, non-animated movies and stuff. I didn't care about that. I liked cartoons. And for me, every Saturday was like a reprieve. I didn't realize it was, but going to school, dealing with all the other stuff because it was so hard being a kid. I know, but it was hard at the time. So Saturday mornings were like my time. I'd go out there, turn on the TV, and it was a couple of hours of I get to just turn off to the world, right? At that time. Little did I know what was coming. But what about you guys? Did you guys watch Saturday morning cartoons? Am I alone?
I loved.
Scott did. I'm going to have the more middling answer, which is I did, but most of the cartoons we're going to talk about, even though they were Saturday cartoons, I watched not on Saturdays because of syndication and things like that. But actual Saturday cartoon viewing, I did a decent amount. I did. I don't think to the level that you guys did, but all these shows that we're probably going to talk about, I watched outside of Saturday, except for one in particular I do want to talk about myself. So short answer for me, yes. Not that often because my parents often had me doing Little League and things like that out of the house. And because Sunday was for the Lord, Saturday had to be for anything else except cartoons. So not as often as I wished is my answer.
Oh yeah. Saturday morning cartoons was a huge part of my childhood. And it's such a weird, explain to you guys, when you say morning, I mean morning. Like I think the block would start usually at like 7 a.m. And that's
6.
so mind-boggling.
It
6,
started at
even
6.
earlier.
At least for me, where I was, it started at 6 a.m.
That is so mind-boggling that like young little kid Scott would willingly leave bed to do something at 6 o'clock. But that's how much I love these Saturday morning cartoons. And little Scott singing his underwear, watching TV, and now I'm big Scott singing my underwear, streaming with you guys.
I was gonna ask if anything.
So I guess
changed.
I guess much hasn't changed in that regard. But it was just kind of a really unique time period where, again, like Mike said, you got stuff streaming, everything's always available at all times. Back then, they would spend all week long hyping up the next episode of your favorite cartoon. And you know what? If your alarm clock didn't go off and you weren't up by 7:30, tough shit. You missed it. Maybe one day it'll air again on syndication or something. But it was a big deal. Like, and you gotta know the next day all the kids on the street is going to be talking about what happened on the episode. So very, very big deal. Like, I believe for the most part, 6 to 11 of nothing but cartoons, new episodes of your favorite shows. Great, great, great time.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and I don't know, I loved them, and I like that you brought up the hyping thing, because that was literally like you'd see it over and over and over. It's coming. Oh my goodness, this thing, and then like I was like, I'm ready, and I was always bright. I was up at 5:50 heading to that living room with my bowl of cereal, ready to go.
They did such a good job as you're watching one show of like hyping you for the next completely like different non-connected cartoon show. Like, hey, you're watching this. Watch this totally different one. And I'm talking in loud voices. And sometimes there's explosions. Don't miss. Like as a kid, you're like, I can't miss.
It's funny how blatantly like they manipulated children with their marketing, but we didn't care. I still don't care. It's like, yeah, do it to me again. I don't care that you're gave me to watch all your shows.
We still fall to it. In different ways. That's all. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I don't know, like looking back on it now, I don't know if corporations like knew that kids would be like, that's probably whoever came up with that idea was probably like deserved the money they got. Was, hey, let's do this block on Saturdays. Let's get the best viewership because we know all these kids are not in school. They're going to be sitting in front of their TV on Saturday morning. Right?
Give them all those ads.
Well, yeah, like another big thing about it is if you look traditionally, like what are some of the worst time periods for like television ratings and ad buy? Saturday mornings. So there's probably some person's like, all right, what do we go and get? How do we boost ratings for shows on Saturday mornings and start selling those ads? Cartoons to kids. Those suckers will buy into anything. So that's just my theory, but I feel like that's kind of some executive in boardroom. That's kind of what the thinking was, get that going.
Yep. And, even some of those cartoons were, and actually we'll talk about a couple of those in a little bit later on, were basically just ploys to get you to buy stuff. They were just basically long ads to get you to buy the toys, right? As much as I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you watch the show and you go, I think that just was an ad to get the toys, which worked for me. I had a whole bunch of them.
Even Pokemon, I think Pokemon is like one of the master classes and just like in your face advertising, like not just a choice, but games and cards. But man, we talk about that later. Too. And it's still going. We can talk more about that later. But yeah, definitely. There's a lot of kids because of Saturday morning cartoons, they would terrorize their parents. Like, I gotta get the new Donatello toy with the springy fist and him fighting the cheese monster. And yeah.
And then your parents would go out and proceed to get like Baxter or something.
And then I wouldn't talk to I literally had this conversation with my therapist the other day of how he got me a Baxter instead of like a Bebop or Rocksteady.
That's what marked the downfall of Scott.
Mm-hmm. Long-term damage there.
That first taste of life right there. Mm-hmm. You wanted Bebop?
Disappointment.
No way. You get Baxter.
Yep. Taste of disappointment. Get used to it, kid. It's the first of many years of it.
So, really quick, which channel was your favorite? So of
Fox
the Saturday
Kids for
morning.
me.
I was about to say, I think Fox was the one I watched the most. What was the one that had Yu-Gi-Oh on it? Was that Fox?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
I remember like trying to understand what was going on as a kid. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I want to know what's going on. That was the one that most of my friends were watching at the time.
Interesting.
I just don't remember what channel it was.
Yeah. Honestly, I was Fox Kids all the way. Probably before I was 10 years old. Once I hit my early teens, then I started watching more WB because then that was the one that was getting more of the superhero shows, and that was the cool thing.
That was definitely older, Matt. The older I got, the more I gravitated towards that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was Fox for me too. WB brought my attention sometimes because of things like Animaniacs, but that it was Fox. Fox was it. So
I wonder what I have legit not looked. I wonder if the current Saturday morning cartoons, because they still have to exist, right? They still have to exist. I wonder if they're good. Like, I don't know. How about if anyone watching this actually has kids or knows? Let us know in the comments. Are there good modern like Fox and WB cartoons on Saturdays?
I try to think because like my kids, like they don't wake up and watch cartoons. They'll watch like YouTube or they'll watch like actual shows from like Cartoon Network or something, which air. They're not Saturday morning stuff. They're all throughout. So they do have they've adopted the shorter episodes, like the 15-minute episodes. But
I always hated those.
Yeah, I mean, some of them it works well, and some of them it's like, don't do that.
Yeah. Even as a kid, I hated it personally. I'm like, no, give me more. How dare you?
But I don't know. I have kids, and they don't watch Saturday morning cartoons, so now I'm thinking about it.
Maybe I guess that bubble's officially burst. Everything's on demand anyways. Everything has its own subscription service, but we don't need to dive into that new business economy that we're too old to care about.
Yep. So actually, Scott, I would like you to go first in
what
was your
this
favorite?
Is unexpected.
Because I'm going to be a gentleman, and I want to hear what you have to say, because in our thing here, there's just a bunch of question marks, and I'm very curious. So, Scott, what was your favorite Saturday morning cartoon?
Well, first off, the first Scott honorable mention of the season. Yeah.
Oh.
We should probably make a theme for this, right? Like a little 30-second theme, so it adds on to it. You know,
have a Matt size counter. Like, there it is. That's his sound.
Get over yourself, Matt. Time for the honorable mention. Give the people what they want. Anyhow, Scott's honorable mention is going to go to a little cartoon called Gargoyles, done by Disney. Gargoyles, just again, this is honorable mention. Ain't going to get too much into it. It was Disney's answer to Batman, the animated series. So Disney getting into before that they were doing Darkwing Duck, DuckTales, Goof Troop, and this is their first mature cartoon, and it was very, very good. Like, this cartoon still holds up today. They did a weird thing where they rebooted it a couple years ago with a comic, and they just did really weird things with the characters. But yeah, I'm not going to go into the details in the story other than it stars gargoyles in the human world and covers actually themes like racism and stuff, very mature topics for kids. Super cool. I love Gargoyles a lot. But as for Scott's main pick, I'm sorry, guys. You can start sighing right now. I'm going rogue on this one because I'm not going to talk about a show. I'm going to talk about a genre. And I'm not even going to talk about cartoons. You're like, Scott, what are you doing right now? But I feel like if you're really going to give true credit to the success of Saturday morning cartoon blocks, especially on Fox Channel, you have to go and give credit to the live action martial arts kid shows.
Oh, my goodness.
The most famous example being a little show that you probably all have heard of, Power Rangers.
Yep, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Okay.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So, which, truth be told, that's probably the one I got into the most as a kid as well. I think I got up to it to Power Rangers Lost in Space or whatever weird shit. But we're not going to talk about that.
What was the name of that one?
Power Rangers Lost in Space. No, it's Lost in Space or some shit. That's the name of the show.
Official title. Actually, it was a very long run-on graphic on the screen whenever the show came up to show that.
It did very well internationally.
It did great internationally. Anyway, but I'm not going to talk about Power Rangers because, enough can be said about Power Rangers. I'm not even going to go and talk about its most popular ripoff. That would be VR Troopers. So what all the hipsters say was a lot better than Power Rangers. No, I'm not even going to talk about the Mystic Knights of Tinanog, the Power Rangers ripoff that takes place in the medieval fantasy kingdom that only lasted for 10 episodes
Scott,
and was horrible.
You making up words.
Was this a fever dream? Were you having fever dreams and these shows just played in your head?
They were knights who did kung fu. and they had magical weapons that turned them into like super kung fu knights. And look it up, the Mystic Knights of Tinanog. I swear to God, this was a thing. It was terrible though. Like even by little kids Scott standards, it was terrible. No, what I want to spend a little bit of time is talking to you about two that maybe didn't last very long, but they forever made an impact on me. And yes, they will forever stick with me. And the first one I'm going to talk to you about is a show by the name of Big Bad Beetleborgs. So I want you, all right, get ready for a journey. Sit tight, buckle your seatbelt.
Man, you brought me back.
That I forgot about that one.
Big Bad Beetleborgs. This show stars 3 kids, and I mean kids. They had to be around 10 years old. Now follow with me. These kids go into a haunted house. The house that was famous around the town of being haunted. You don't go in this house. And so what do they do being 3 little snot-nosed kids? Let's go in the house. They go into there. They find monsters. Real monsters. And you may think like, oh, wow, is this a scary show? Let's put it this way. One of them was a ghost that looked like a fat Elvis. The other one was a wolf man who behaved more like a very poorly housebroken dog. And the other one was a mummy, which obviously, you know, always dressed like a mom. And all the jokes had something to do with, you know, with him being a mummy. All right. And so you're like, all right, cool. We follow along. Do you now? Because one of these kids is an artist, a comic book artist. He just draws little comic doodles in his spare time. The Elvis ghost, because if you didn't know, Elvis ghosts, aside from all their other abilities to go through walls and possess people, apparently also have the magical ability to bring comics to life. So he goes and brings the comic to life for the kid and transforms them into the Big Bad Beetleborgs, which is just basically Power Rangers, but, you know, with really crappy beetle costumes. Now, elsewhere, comic books from an evil person just come to life for some reason. I don't know. It just happens. They have to have some way to create the villains. So you have comic book panels coming to life of villains. And this is what the Beetleborgs were fighting against. Now, not going to go into rant on and on and on about the show. I just want to leave with like my very last thing that I will always remember about the show is it had 2 seasons. Going from season 1 to 2, the actor who played the young girl changed. Now you may ask yourself, I'm like, all right, how do they explain this? Do they go and just like change the actor out and pretend like nothing happened? Nope. Do they go and acknowledge that like, oh, hey, yeah, we're changing actors. This is a new girl in town. The other one left. No. The bad guys place a spell on the girl to change her appearance. So everybody in town sees her looking as a different little girl. I'm like, whoa, you look different now. At the end of the episode, they were able to break the spell. But in order to do it, they had to make it so her closest friends, every time they see her, she looks different to them now. She looks like a different girl. But when she goes to her parents, when she goes to school, everybody sees her as the old girl that she used to be. That is literally how they went and wrote this actor off the show. It's like magic. It's magic.
That's too complicated to be jumping the shark. That's like jumping the shark while going through a hula hoop of fire.
This is what they were presenting little kids. And you know, it actually made sense to me. I'm like, all right, I'm following along. This makes sense. But Big Bad Beetleborgs. This may sound like I just talked about some fever dream of haunted houses and Elvis ghosts and comic books coming to life. But that show will always stick with me. And one of the big reasons it did, one of the good things that show did is actually got me for a time period into drawing comic book villains. And I was very sad. I actually had a stack of 200 like comic book characters. They obviously were pretty crappy. You know, I was like 10 years old when I drew them. But this was like something I was deeply obsessed with doing for a year. And it was something that like I really look back on and, you know, treasure that time. So that was a cool thing, 100% because of Big Bad Beetleborgs. Now, the second one I want to present to you is a show that is technically I guess it still aired in the morning. It was one of the more mature not live action, but, you know, real people fighting karate shows. And that's a little show called WMAC Masters, which would air just at the end of the Saturday morning block. Now, I want you to imagine, if you can, get Power Rangers, get WWE, throw in a little mixture of Mortal Kombat, and then you got WMAC Masters. Now, the premise of this show was you had different martial arts fighters that would compete against each other to win the martial arts championship belt. And basically every episode would be matches with these guys fighting against each other. And you know what? In the middle of their little choreographed fight, that's add ninjas. They would just get attacked by random groups of ninjas, and then they would have to team up and fight the ninjas together. All right, ninjas are done. Go back to fighting each other. If they win, they go and get the logo little insignia of their defeated opponent and put them in their little championship belts. The first fighter to go and fill up their belt and get 10 insignias from their opponents gets to go into the championship round against the reigning champ in a steel cage of death. Which, again, in the middle of said fight, they would get invaded by ninjas again. So go figure. The prize they were fighting for was the illustrious, the mystical Dragon Star. Ooh. Now, this may sound corny as hell, and I'm going to be honest. I rewatched an episode of it today because I knew I was going to talk about it. It was actually kind of cool. They kind of threw in like really cheesy, like if you think WWE storylines are cheesy, you're going to think that that's like Golden Globe, Oscar, like Warby Riding compared to the storylines they have going on this. But it had cool action. It really did. It had cool set pieces they wrestled around. It actually is a kind of cool show. And it's kind of amazing that I got so into this show. And it was probably a 5-year gap between me watching this and me getting into watching professional wrestling. But you can definitely see like the trail going from one to the other. And I find that really interesting that I got it so into this show before wrestling. And it's just kind of like, all right, actual people fighting against each other, grudge matches, cool moves that ninjas, obviously you got your ninjas, championship belts. But again, I want to leave you with just probably the most what the F thing I walk away from that series. And that was throughout the 2 seasons that the show lasted, there was a shadowy ninja organization that's always trying to infiltrate the good guys and still the main championship Dragon Star. At the very end of the last episode of the 2nd season, a new guy became champion, beat the reigning champion. Yay, everybody's celebrating. Fireworks are going off. He's getting the Dragon Star.
Spoilers.
Thanks.
I'm sorry for anybody who is starting to bring this up. Like, the trophy would be in the ground and, like, really dramatically get raised up on this little platform. It pops up, and it's gone. And there's just a little ninja mask of the evil ninjas that have been terrorizing them for 2 seasons. They stole the championship. Now, throughout the show, in the wrestling world, there's a term called jobber. And that's the person whose sole existence in life is to lose everything to make the other person look good. And this show had a jobber. He did not win a single match. He was the worst. And he was, the lovable jobber. Everybody loved him. Good meaning, but he sucked. The very end of the episode, it shows him racing off in a speedboat with the evil ninja garb, just holding the championship belt. It's like, ha, I fooled them. I was the evil ninja all along. And obviously that was supposed to be a cliffhanger to season 3. Show got canceled. No season 3. So I will forever remember that this show canonically ended as evil ninja jobber secretly like outsmarts everybody, rides off in the sunset with the championship belt. The end of the story. And
they made a season 3. It was called The Usual Suspects.
There you go. That is WMAC Masters for you, ladies and gentlemen. And again, this is not a fever dream of Scott. Look it up. Again, that is a show that it's fun to make fun of, but man, little kid Scott loved it. I think I never had a crushing moment where I said somebody told me wrestling was fake and I freaked out. Never happened, because I had that moment with WMAC Masters. I used to take karate at the time, and I mentioned how much I loved the show, and my sensei told me like, oh, that's all fake, I screamed down, no, it's not fake, you're fake. And I went home and I cried all night long and my world was shattered. That was my wrestling is fake moment. But there you go, guys. Sorry if it got a little ranty, but there you go.
Wrestling's not fake.
Big Bad Beetleborgs, WMAC Masters.
I'm impressed because not only did Scott find a way to sneak in like 5 honorable mentions in that whole thing, we were like, let's talk about cartoons. And Scott's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Haha, just kidding. Gotcha, jerks.
I mean, it's weird because we talked about like, and we'll get a little bit more into this later. We'll get a little bit more into why this actually works at the conclusion of this, I think, because I kind of want to bring up a point there of why that worked, Scott. You made it work. You made it work.
I did make it work. Well, good job. That was the plan, not for me to just go and be the wild card.
Well, it's crazy. As soon as you said big bad, and in my brain, I said Beetleborgs as you said it, and I was like, I forgot about that show. Just whoop, and it just like entered back into my body, like entered back into my
Yeah.
soul, and I was like, I remember. I loved that show. It was so cool.
It was cool. And to be honest, I'm not going to spoil what you guys are going to be talking about, but there's a certain genre of cartoon show that you guys kind of are already going to be going over extensively. So I figure at least kind of break it up a bit, spice it up, add a little variety. But anyway, with that said, who's going to go next?
I think Matt should go next since he's the middling
All
one.
right.
I am
Middling
going
Matt.
to go next. So I was going to pick one of two. I won't go into those details, Scott, but I was debating between one, which was a show called Static Shock, which I freaking loved as a kid. That was good times. No, my all-time favorite, like 90s Saturday morning cartoon was a show called Batman Beyond. We're not talking about Batman the animated series. We're not talking about Superman animated series, which controversial statement. I enjoyed the Superman one more than Batman. Batman Beyond blew my mind as a kid. The premise is Batman, Bruce Wayne, is old and he builds essentially an Iron Man suit, but a Batman suit. And he almost kills someone because he is old and struggling in that moment, which is a big deal with Batman lore. His whole bit is he doesn't kill people. And then this cool looking high schooler, he's a spicy boy. This cool looking high schooler stumbles essentially into the Bat Cave and this suit, more or less, takes the suit, steals it, and after some, back and forth, becomes the new Batman. So he is a much younger Batman, not played by Bruce Wayne, with an Iron Man Batman suit, and it was the coolest thing in the world to me. The whole decor of it, the whole setting. This is a futuristic city, which we are living in the time that really should have been the city. It doesn't exist. It's a cool futuristic city. It actually is very similar to Cyberpunk, if you're familiar with that setting. It kind of feels like Cyberpunk to an extent. And he is a Batman that actually talks and jokes and fights with these cool gadgets. And they introduce so many cool villains. Most of them were young. Like you're young, you're watching young people do things, and you enjoy that quite a bit. But that's what appealed to me. It was just so freaking cool. Even back then, I loved the idea of seeing established characters aged. Even as a kid, I'm like, I know who Batman is. I know who Bruce Wayne is. Seeing him like 30, 40, 50 years in the future, I want to watch that. Even as a kid, I thought that was the coolest concept. And I actually love when shows and movies do that. Like either the next show is set 10 years in the future, or at the end of the movie, it's 5 years in the future. I like to see where they really ended up, not just like, oh, he gets the girl, but who is he 5, 10 years from now? That concept, even as a kid, I thought was super fascinating. And that's one of the reasons that it really appealed to me just as a kid. And also, I love that futuristic setting. It was so cool. It always gave me hope in a weird way. And again, it really had some cool villains and some very mature villains. Like they actually had like guns in that one. They actually had some pretty bad dudes in that one. And just like the fight scenes, the action, the music was like a futuristic techno beat that if I listened to it today, I'd be like, yeah, man, this is a bopper, as Scott would say.
Yep.
And that segues into what I really want to talk about is how does it hold up? The answer is great. This show will stand the test of time. This is rare. You guys know this. I don't hold on to stuff. I don't keep any really physical media. When I'm done with something, I'm done with something. I have the entire series on DVD. I have the entire series on DVD of Batman Beyond. And more importantly, a movie that was introduced to me by Scott. He did introduce it to me in my more adult years. There was a movie that I own on Blu-ray that has blood and death. And I think even said a swear. I might be wrong about that one. If they said, maybe it said damn or hell. I might be wrong about that one. But I think it did. And it had some very mature elements. And they brought back Mark Hamill to replay the Joker in the Batman Beyond universe. And that was the greatest thing. I saw Mike's eyes kind of open.
I don't think I've ever seen this. Like you're saying,
You've never
this?
seen Batman Beyond Return of the Joker? What is wrong with you,
Bro.
Mike?
No, I didn't even know it existed.
Bro.
And as soon as you said like Mark Hamill, and I was like, wait,
Watch
what?
the unedited version, because there's a TV version and an unedited version. If you get the chance, you should watch it. It's going to blow your freaking mind, and you're going to be like, this still holds up. I will say one beef I had with the show is season 2. The whole Moneymakers network deciders basically said, hey, this is a TV show where there's high schoolers. We want kids to watch this. You should make more villains and things set in the high school. So the second season was very different in that they just had a lot of like, hey, now Joe Schmo in science class has superpowers. Now Ashley, what's her face, has superpowers in PE. So that was, even as a kid, I'm like, can we get away from the high school? But then season 3 was pretty cool. And the movie, I thought, wrapped it up. And then the kicker for adult me and anyone else that really enjoyed Batman Beyond, they actually continued this in the comics. And somewhat recently, they made some Batman Beyond comics that were geared towards me, an adult. It was so freaking cool. My favorite Saturday morning cartoon was Batman Beyond. It still holds up. If you haven't seen it, check out some of it. At the very least, check out the movie, which is so freaking good. It holds up everywhere. I love Batman Beyond, and I wanted so badly to see Batman Beyond in WB multiverses. And I'm still holding out hope that if it comes back, either if it's a skin or a separate character, I will give you money, WB. Let me play as Terry McGinnis. Batman Beyond. Mike, please share with me your top cartoon.
Dude, I'm just sitting here. You're talking about Batman Beyond. I'm thinking, man, both Batman and Batman Beyond were so good. They were just so good. And the animation,
Correct.
like you see the animation, because
Bruce Timm, I think it was the foundation of what a lot of the, because the joke was Marvel could make movies, DC could make animated shows. And it started with Batman, Superman, Batman Beyond. But sorry, I got excited. Go for it, Mike.
yeah, and it's crazy. A lot of these old shows too. One of the big things where it doesn't hold up is the animation. And you'll find that certain studios like Disney, like if you watch Gargoyles, the animation's still top notch. Like it's really good, right? And the Batman shows, Batman and Batman Beyond, were both like, even for their time, you rewatch them, you're like, this is not bad. Like this isn't like, oh, I can tell that, like, it's really good still. So mine, well, before I get to mine, I have honorable mentions too, since Matt did it too.
Mine was short.
You still did it. You still did it. You damn hypocrite. You damn hypocrite.
Doesn't matter if it was 2 seconds. You still did it. I got 3. First one, Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Big Spider-Man fan. We got Spider-Man 2 coming around the corner. I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I love Peter Parker. Yeah. I'm actually not talking about that one tonight. Honorable mention. These other two, I think one of them's you're gonna go, oh yeah. The other one you're gonna be like, what? The Tick.
Yes.
The animated show, The Tick.
That show is better as an adult. That is better as an adult.
It 100% is. Even just the characters, everything. You watch it and you go, ooh, this is funny. This is good funny. Like, it's really good. The Tick, awesome. And this other one is the obscure one, SWAT Cats.
Oh my gosh. Let's go.
And there were rumors, and I think they have been making it. Maybe they put it on hold, but there were rumors that they were doing a reboot of that show, of all the shows. And I was like, little kid Mike was like, yes. So those are it. Those 3. The show I'm going to talk about, I still read the comics. They have, one of them has a game coming out soon that I am super pumped for. We know nothing about it yet. I'm like, well, put it in my hands. You know, it's being done by Insomniac. I have hats. I have a cool bag because Mr. Scott here gave me a cool bag. I have statues out there. I love this group. I even have,
there it is,
a tattoo on my shoulder. So for you listening, you're not seeing my tattoo of the X-Men. I freaking love the X-Men. And as I've gotten older, which I'll get to in a second, it's gotten better. But let's talk about the show on Saturday mornings. This was my first real taste of, would you call it serialized? Basically, I know that you guys had talked about like I think it was Spider-Man or something else was like more like, whoa, the story is going from episode to episode. This was my personal first of like, whoa, wait. I have to wait till the next episode to see what happens, like from the get-go. Like the whole thing with Morph, the whole storyline with Morph and everything. And I remember thinking like, wait, it ended? It's done? What do I do? What do I do? And I was so confused as a kid. And I just instantly got hooked. And the animation, so rewatching it, I'll go more in depth on this. it still holds up. It's on Disney Plus. The show's on Disney Plus, and they're remaking. They're doing, well, not remaking. They're doing another season, or maybe
They're
possibly
continuing it.
they're
Yeah.
continuing the show called X-Men 94. And I'm like, it's staying in that same style, which that is the strong suit of this show. The animation, it's not as good as some others. I rewatched it again. I'm like, I could tell it's definitely 90s animation. But the art style, and it's so funny, Scott, how you talked about how you would like go draw. I think it was Big Bag Beetleborgs. You'd go draw like the different things and stuff like that. That's what I did with the X-Men. Like, I'm talking their big old pecs and their six packs and their whatever muscle this thing is that went around right there, the rib cage, and like their bite, like, Wolverine, Cyclops, the more obscure ones, Shatterstar, Psylocke, all of these other ones. I loved the X-Men as a kid. And it's so funny that I just liked it because of like how weird it was. It was. So for those of you who don't know who the X-Men are, first of all, I'm sorry. You really need to figure out who they are, okay, in some capacity. I don't care what medium. The X-Men are mutants. They are groups of people where their genetic mutations have gone so far that they look different, they act different, they talk different, and more importantly, they have typically some kind of superpower. Iceman is made of ice and he shoots out ice. Beast was a normal man who ended up becoming an actual beast. Professor X, telekinetic, Jean Grey, I can keep going on and on, but they all have superpowers, okay? So for me, this was like the cradle of my love with superheroes, okay? This was it. That being said, when I was a kid, so this show means two different things to me. As a kid, I just liked the look of it, the colors, the style, and it was just cool. Like, Wolverine was so badass. He was just like, screw it, I'm going to do what I want to do. And everybody's like, Wolverine, you can't do that. You got to follow protocol. He's like, nope, ain't going to do it. And then he'd go get the job done. But then, like, it was so cool to me. Like, I don't know, being a rebellious kid or just being a young boy, right? Like, it was so cool. Growing up, the show still holds up. And it's not because of the animation. It's not even because of the style. It's because of the topics that they talk about in that show in a not, like, it's kind of on the nose in a way. But honestly, if you go and rewatch and you go, they aired this on TV at that time in the 90s? I feel like this would have, like, people would have been against this, and maybe they were, and I was a kid and I didn't know. But this show talks about genocide. It talks about racism. It talks about real world problems, economic problems. There are different story art. I mean, it had death in it. I don't remember there ever being blood, but there were deaths. This was a show where somebody died and they didn't come back, and that, like, struck me as a kid. I was like, oh, they'll come back, and then they didn't, and I was like, wait, they're gone. They're not coming back. Whoa. So it means something totally different to me, and it was crazy how they implemented these real world things into a kid's show where if a parent watched it, I'm sure they were like, whoa. Kids just liked it. So that was my thing. I loved it, and it still holds up to this day. The animation's a little rough. It gets better as you watch it. But it's the style and the topics that they talked about. It's amazing what they talked about, and it was very inclusive. Like, it's very inclusive. So, because mutants were supposed to be the minority, right? But then also they talked about things of like, well, they're superior, so why don't they just take over? And in fact, they had groups that thought that. They were the bad guys, right? So good. Such iconic enemies, iconic, just everything. Go watch X-Men, go read X-Men, go do something. So that was my big thing. I freaking loved and still love X-Men.
X-Men was cool. And just thinking about it, like you mentioned the inclusivity, which has always been a staple to their original creation, which was when did the original X-Men comics get made? Like 70s, 80s?
Dude,
Probably
60s. It was, and I actually
60s.
I should have gotten that one now I'm thinking about it. I actually have a compendium of the first one. They're all black and white, and I have
Yeah.
it sitting out there. And reading them, they're super cheesy. But
Yeah.
even then, they still included those topics. It's crazy.
I'd imagine if that came out today, they're literally, like, to use some hot button words, like, there would be a loud minority of people, like, they're woke, they're indoctrinating our kids, like, that 100% would happen, and I like that shows like that had that get a pass now. But I imagine when the new series drops, it's gonna continue that, and they're gonna get some heat, but you know what? Who cares? Animation was great, the stories were great. The thing that you mentioned there that I've mentioned before for other shows that blew my mind is what really got me into, like, Spider-Man, the '90s show, was like, "Wait, there's a to be continued? That's a thing you could do?" It was so captivating as a kid, like, I felt that one hard.
Yep.
So I enjoyed the X-Men ones. I assume Scott was a X-Men boy. You enjoy those cartoons, yeah?
Oh yeah, I was huge into X-Men. If I had to rank probably my favorite like superhero Saturday morning cartoon, it definitely would be, well, actually Batman the animated series doesn't count because that actually only aired in the afternoons because it was too mature. So I would say, yeah, it would be X-Men that was my favorite Saturday morning cartoon. And I'm not going to talk too much about him, but one of the villains that Mike was talking about, that he was the villain because, you know, he had the audacity to think mutants shouldn't be slaughtered and thrown in concentration camps, is actually my favorite comic book, not just Marvel, but comic book villain of all time, even surpassing the Joker, which, if you know anything about me, I'm a huge Joker fanboy. So yeah, villain name by name of Magneto. Obviously, Mike knows who I'm talking about, so ain't gonna talk too much about it. But yeah, definitely right there. Like my favorite, maybe even one of my favorite comic book characters ever, X-Men, right there. So that should tell you how big of an impact this show had on little kid Scott.
Well, Scott,
It-
why don't you tell me what is your handle in Discord?
My
Hero
handle on Discord,
Hero.
Hero Omega Man X. So I'm not going to bore you with the evolution of my handle, but part of it was one of my original gamer tags on Xbox, which was the Omega Red, another villain from X-Men, which he was like basically the most one-dimensional villain ever, but he was cool. And
He looked
actually, he looked
He
cool.
looked
My
cool.
favorite, and I think I mentioned this in the previous episode of this podcast, the very first video game I ever owned was X-Men Children of the Atom, which was basically the very first game that used the combat engine for what you know as Marvel versus Capcom. That was what started it off. And yeah, my very first game ever, my favorite character to play in there was Omega Red. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Mike. Like just talking about even more, like the roots really run deep with me for X-Men. So good choice there, Mike. I may have picked it myself if I wasn't trying to semi-troll you guys with my choices.
That was one that I was not going to give up because I'm an ex boy.
I mean, you have it
I'm
on
an
your arm, so I
X-Man.
guess you got
He's an
I'm an
X-Man
X-Man now.
you got it on your arm, so I think you kind of like trump me. So I'll let you have it.
If you get it tatted
That's
on your
great.
ass, you win.
Oh, there you go. You can have it next time.
What's the current goal? How many am I getting to for Fortnite? Is it a million?
Like a million.
That's like a million, some ridiculous
million
number.
All right, guys.
We are currently at
You hear it?
113 subscribers, so here's another goal. Go.
Bring it up. 2 million subscribers. I'll get the X-Man logo on the other cheek. So you got Fortnite X on my butt.
Do a little sexy dance with it. And then they have to add Omega Red into Fortnite. That'd be fun. I
Okay.
think it'd be safe to say, like, if we collectively to say, hey, if you have not seen any of these cartoons that we watched that we listed so far, I think we're collectively going to say, go watch X-Men. I love Batman Beyond, but X-Men, very, very good. So one thing I want to do really quickly is there are so many freaking cartoons that we watch on Saturdays or after Saturdays because they pretty much got syndicated. We're gonna do some rapid fire listing of some shows, and all I'm looking for is, did you watch it? Did you like it? We're just gonna shoot through it real quick. We're doing it. So I'm gonna start. Freakazoid. Did you watch Freakazoid,
Yes.
Scott?
No,
You didn't watch Freakazoid?
I know
Runs
of
around
Freakazoid.
in his
I've never
underwear.
watched it.
Freakazoid.
Freakazoid.
Freakazoid. Yep.
Did you like it,
Okay.
Mike? I
Nope,
couldn't
not
tell
at
if I
all.
liked it. Yeah, I couldn't
Not
tell
at
if I
all.
liked it or it was just so bonkers. I'm like, all right, I guess we're watching Freakazoid now.
Syndrome reminded me of Freakazoid in
Ooh.
The Incredibles. He reminded me of Freakazoid.
I feel
Anyway,
like they have a
continue.
similar voice. Pinky and the Brain. You both watched this one,
Yes.
I mean,
We
that's
love
that's
Pinky and the Brain.
We
Animaniacs,
love-
right? So like they're
but
one
they
and the
had their
same.
own
So,
show.
They did have
that
their
I
own
watched.
show.
Oh, that's
And here's
true.
the thing.
That's true.
I hate Animaniacs. I actually do. Wacko, Daco,
Yakko.
Dot, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Jocko, whatever. I hated them. They annoyed the shit at me, and this is little kid annoying Scott, and he's getting annoyed. Hated Animaniacs, loved Pinky and the Brain, loved it.
Pinky and the Brain was so good, and their standalone
Excellent.
show was phenomenal. This was one of my personal favorites. Did you guys ever watch Recess?
Yes,
I loved Recess, and how good was the movie?
it was good. I'm throwing this out there. A lot of these aren't Saturday morning cartoons. They aired on Disney's afternoon block, so I'm just throwing it out there.
But we're gonna talk. I'm gonna
talking
bring
about
this
it.
up in the conclusion.
Okay,
Barry in the
answer
lead there. Barry in the lead.
Yep.
But to answer the question, though, Recess, I loved it, and I also loved the movie. The movie was one of the best like send off movies to end a series that have ever been made.
I loved Recess. All right, here's one you guys already mentioned. Street Sharks, yeah?
Yep, I watched it.
Did you actually enjoy Street Sharks? Did you actually enjoy it?
I don't think so. I just got the
Yeah.
toys because the toys were super cool.
I got a toy too. There's these super jacked like shark men. Like it was a crappy action figure. You can only like move the arm kind of like this, but they look super cool.
All I'm going to say about Street
fin.
Sharks, yeah.
Mhm.
All I'm going to say about Street Sharks is the only thing I remember about it is there is a villain in there whose name was Killer Mari. I'll just leave you with that. That's all you need to know about it.
All right, real quick. Darkwing Duck.
Yes.
We all
Yes.
love Darkwing. Let's
Great.
go. All right,
It's great.
We love Darkwing Duck. Here's one that I watched a lot and couldn't tell if I liked, which means I hated it. Kablam.
Never saw it.
I don't think I saw it. I think
It
I
was
know what
on
you're talking about.
Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I think
It
I know
was
what you're talking about, but I never
So
watched
weird.
it.
All right, we already talked about Batman and Superman, the animated series. We did enjoy those. I thought Superman was a little bit better, but collectively, Batman we definitely liked. Spider-Man 90s. We talked about this in a last season podcast, but we admit we all watched and enjoyed Pepper Ann, right?
Yeah.
We did. We
It
did.
was like
Yeah.
a guilty pleasure. It was
It
a.
was.
I would never
Even as a
admit
kid,
it out
I knew
loud.
it.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, and the same goes with Doug. They're pretty much one and the same of like back to back, like when they were airing. I remember seeing them a lot. So Doug was a good one. Magic School Bus, I think we all saw as a kid, like
Yeah.
in school and like on TV. Tiny Toons. Did you guys vibe with Tiny Toons?
It was all right.
I thought it was all right. Yeah, it wasn't bad for sure, but it wasn't Looney Tunes, right? It wasn't.
it had the same. It had the same energy as Animaniacs, which again kind of annoyed
Yeah.
me. But yeah,
All right, we're just rapid fire. Hey Arnold, yeah, we liked
Yep.
it.
It was
Yeah, it
okay.
was a good
I
show.
watched it. It was
All
okay.
right.
That was
It's
one I
okay.
watched a lot of. Arthur, that was the PBS one. Did you guys ever watch Arthur?
I didn't watch Arthur, but I know what it is.
there was a time period when poor Scott, the only thing, no cable at all in Scott household,
Yeah,
only
PBS.
PBS, and it was Arthur.
That was
Sesame
it.
Street, Mr. Rogers. That was the only entertainment I got.
And we all watched Rugrats. I think we
Mhm.
enjoyed Rugrats. You know they did a Rugrats All Grown Up, where
All
every
grown up.
and
Yeah.
every joke was like, haha, puberty. And I was like, haha, puberty.
And
I thought
lasted
it was-
one season, I think.
Yeah,
That's all it
it
was.
probably did. But again, that what appealed to me about that is like, oh, it's everyone in the future.
Yeah, it was
That was
cool for what
interesting.
it was.
Animaniacs, Scott didn't like. They
Right.
redid Animaniacs on Hulu.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the second season. I did see the first season. It was really good.
Yeah, I like Animaniacs. They're stupid and fun.
Yeah. All right. Here's the big one that I really wanted to save for last. I think I know the answer, but they aired at the same time, and one was a ripoff of the other, but it didn't really feel like it with how different, in my opinion, it was. Digimon and Pokemon. Were you a Pokemon watcher or a Digimon? You might have watched both, but did you prefer one over the other?
So here's the thing. I was a Pokemon guy, but to be fair, kids today will never understand the marketing blitz that you were subjected to when Pokemon came out. It's
Yeah.
amazing how it was all at the same time. It's like, here's the show. Oh, and here's the game. And here's the cards. And here's the toys. And you just like, Digimon could not compete with that type of marketing blitz. And I even wanted to stay, I'm like, I still love Pokemon. Do I really love Pokemon, or was I just indoctrinated at a really, really young age to like Pokemon? But I was definitely a Pokemon kid growing up, and that's why this way I couldn't tell you the name of a single Digimon. I can get to a couple hundred Pokemon for you.
I knew the theme song of Digimon. That's about it.
was a-
Digimon,
it
digital
was a dope
monster.
song.
Digimon are the champions.
I thought Digimon was the better show because it had that continuation story.
Yeah, it might have
So
been a
did
better
Pokemon.
show.
Come
But
on. Ash
Pokemon
is
did
getting
as
all the
well.
badges.
Yeah, sure. Great.
The Elite
character
Four.
growth.
Pokemon also had the better theme song though, too.
Yeah.
That theme
All right,
song
that-
was fire.
The very
That
best
song was so
in
good.
the
I heard a lot of elementary kids making their own version of that song with all inappropriate things. It was terrible. Yeah, Scott was
That
one
would
of
be
them.
Scott. That would be Scott.
There is some
That
real
was my
bad ones.
jam.
All right, this concludes rapid fire thoughts on cartoons, not all of which were Saturday. We are going to wrap up this podcast, but first we have a few things. Is one, holy crap, why haven't you liked this? Why haven't you shared this with your friends? Why haven't you told us how pretty we are today? I need you to do that right now. We're just having fun. We hope you are too, but you should like, you should subscribe, you should go to our Twitch channels, our Discords if you like. Listen to this on Apple Pods or Spotify. Go hit the like button on YouTube. Do it. We are not above asking and begging. Do it.
You should do it. And also one other thing before I get to a final point and we do the video question. Product placement.
There it is.
It's all backwards on my camera, but I don't care. So yeah, that's a big old sticker. It's pretty awesome. It's a Matt. It's Matt right there.
Matt.
They're pretty cool. So maybe we'll do something, maybe we won't. I gotta send these jerks out their stickers, but I do have an extra one, so maybe I'll do something with that too. And then any of the other ones will probably be a lot smaller than this one. I just wanted to see what the quality was. And these came from Sweden. And they're
Isn't that weird?
It's very weird, but it's very good. Very good quality. So good stuff. And
Great meatballs and better stickers.
better stickers. Before we get to the viewer questions, which Scott will talk about, I want to put a pin, finalize one thing. So you mentioned, well, not all these are on Saturday morning, and Scott just blatantly just didn't do Saturday morning or cartoons, but somehow they all still fit. For those that are younger, that don't know, you know, what we're talking about, maybe this is all foreign, just foreign to you, right? Saturday morning cartoons was also like a genre. It was not just cartoons or just on Saturday morning. It was a style. It was that fit in a 30-minute segment, typically 20 minutes because they had to throw ads at you, that really fit a mold, right? And all of these shows that we talked about fit that mold. And I don't think we don't really have that anymore. Now, maybe this is just us getting older. Maybe this is me getting older. But like talking about my kids earlier, they don't really watch Saturday morning cartoons. They just watch whatever, whenever, right? They're the Orange Cassidys of this generation. Whatever, whenever. So it's genre. So I wanted to kind of point that out, that not all these were on Saturday. Not all these were cartoons, Scott.
Yeah.
But you know, they still fit somehow because it was a genre, it was a type of show that fit, right? Just like there were 90s sitcoms, Full House, Full Matters, or not Full Matters, Family Matters, Full House, Full Matters, Full House, Family Matters, and things like that. So I wanted to put a pin on that. So okay. Matt, that being said, do you have a question?
I heard you had a question. So many questions. Why don't you ask your question and the buds will bust an answer for you.
Have we got a question? We do. This was submitted by our friend of the stream. I don't know if he chose anonymous or not. I didn't actually pay attention.
Yeah, maybe go look at that first.
Anywho, this was a question that was submitted. There two parts. First one was for me. Why do you never play Mario Maker on stream anymore? And the answer was, I don't know. But the timing is interesting because this would be after this airs. I am going to be doing my first Mario Maker stream in, I think, 6 years. I'll be playing Mario Maker 2 this Thursday. So maybe it's going to make a comeback where it's a lot of fun. You guys submit levels. I play bad at them, and we're going to have some fun with it. Mario Maker's a pretty good game. Mike, you played both, and I know you like the first one. Second one kind of indifferent on.
I'm a big, to open this question up to all of us, I am a big Mario fan. That's no big surprise. Woohoo. I'm a huge Mario fan. I loved Mario Maker 1. Mario Maker 2 was fine. It lost the soul to me, you know, like, and it just, I don't know. So I ended up stop playing it, but especially stream. I think I burned out too because I streamed it. Like that was like one of my big streaming games. And I got burned out on it. One of my
OG streaming games before I took that like 3-4 year break. And it actually did very, very well for me. That's where a lot of my current 6-7 years later Twitch viewers still hang around from those streams. Scott, you never played Mario Maker, did you?
No, and I swear I'm not trying to just be antagonistic towards Mike. I actually don't like Mario. The only Mario game that I liked was Super Mario 64. Haven't liked a single Mario since.
You
I
don't like
just
Odyssey?
Did you not play Odyssey?
I never played Odyssey. I never played Odyssey. It had
Scott.
no appeal to me. I got near the end.
Did
Like
you
I
play
tried
Super Mario?
I played plenty of Mario games. I'm not. Odyssey is like the one that like I haven't even tried at all. I've played almost every other Mario game, and I was just like, doesn't do anything for me. Super Mario Sunshine. I'm gonna say it. That's actually a bad game in my opinion.
Oh, it is. Everybody
wow,
agrees
you
with
agree?
that. No, a
I
lot of
didn't
people
expect
agree.
that.
That's
don't
like
like Mario.
Skyward Sword with me and my Zeldas. Skyward Sword is like Sunshine.
Yeah,
is,
I'm not a Mario guy.
Second
Okay.
part of the question, and I did establish there was a name applied to this question. It was Gareth. Gareth asked the question, so I can say it. The second question, I'm going to say this is for everybody, and I'm going to take the answer that I think we all have first. Who is your all-time favorite mustachioed super villain? The answer is freaking Dr. Robotnik. Tell me there's anyone else even close to Dr. Robotnik being the coolest villain with the mustache.
I gotta think about this. I'm trying to think of my favorite villains.
Well, it's definitely not Mario because he is actually a villain.
What about
Hear me out. Hear me out. How long has he been with Peach? And he hasn't put a ring on that? And he's just like, I'm not going to marry you, Peach. Oh, but Bowser stole you? Well, God forbid somebody actually shows some interest in that woman and you go and break up his... Like, at least he shows the initiative and you're just going to swoop in there and you're just going to go wreck all his castles. You wreck multiple Bowser castles, you son of a bitch. Castles aren't cheap. And you're just like, oh, turns out she wasn't in this castle after all. Wreck the whole entire thing. Move on to the next one. What the... Dude, like... I'm sorry. This is not time for the Sky Party Potty rant. I'm sorry. I will shut up.
Two things. We got a bonus rant. Also, somewhat related to what you just said, you should play Mario Odyssey. Just saying.
You should play Mario Odyssey.
Does anyone have another mustachioed villain they can even think of right
I can't
now?
even think of right now. No, I can't think of another one. I'm sure afterward I'm going to be like, damn it, that person. But no, I mean...
Someone should tell us in the comments.
And what did you say his name was again? What did you say his name was?
All right. Dr. Robotnik or Eggman?
You better say
Jonah
Robotnik.
Jameson? Would you consider J. Jonah Jameson a villain?
He's not a super villain, though. He's just a villain. Or
He's
a bad
kind of
guy.
kind of a douche.
Yeah, he's just a big old douche, right?
Big old douche.
That's a good reference there, though. He is pretty entertaining.
Hey, this is usually Mike's bit where he asks a special question of Scott. Do you have a question for Scott, Mike?
I do have a question. Scott, now that you're all fired up, do you have a rant for us tonight?
Oh, do I have a rant for you guys? Strap in your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Look over there, he just doesn't care. He's going off on a crowd of people, throwing words in the air like he just don't care. He's yelling at all of us sheeple. It's a Scotty Border Body rant. It's a Scotty Border Body rant. It's a Scotty Border Body rant. It's rant time.
You know what really grinds my gears, brothers? Upper middle class white people who live in vans. That's right. I'm talking about you, van livers. You have the ability to own a house, but oh, look at me. I love the planet so much. I'm just going to go and live in this van, and I'm going to go and take a shower once a month because I don't like wasting water. I have to work around you. I mean, people have to work around you, you son of a bitch. Smell. I know you get used to the smell of you not taking a shower in a month, but I don't. Live like a human being. Oh, it's not a big deal. I got this little porta potty within my van. Ha 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 ha. I live such a clean, green life. Do you now? When you go and take your 1 month long trips to Cabo and Aspen. But yeah, you love the planet, don't you? You get to be so much better than me in your van. I would love to have a house. I really would. You can have a house, but you're too good for it because you just want to go and drive around in your little van and live amongst the trees and nature. You don't have a home. The world is your home. Nature is my house. Oh, life is so great. I hate you. I hate you with my whole being because you choose to live like a homeless person, opposed to homeless people who live like homeless people and don't have a choice. So you know what? I don't hate the homeless. I do hate people who live like the homeless but don't have to. You sicken me, sir. God bless the United States of America, but not you.
I think I can legitimately say I've never seen or know one person like that. The only people I've known living in their vans were hippies.
Dude.
And that was from my Humboldt roots there.
I'm not going to say I work with anybody like this. I ain't going to say the name of my town. I'm not going to shame anybody, but it's a big thing where I live. Like, actually, like, people who could probably afford a house if they wanted to. But
don't some of your coworkers watch this or listen to this? Did they all know
but
about?
They're the cool ones. They're the cool ones. They actually live in houses.
If that's
not,
if they're watching,
campers.
this is a joke. We're making funny, haha.
That's hey,
You should go tell on Scott.
Buds busting balls. It's called Buds Busting Balls. I'm busting your balls. So you know what that means?
You're a bud?
You're my bud.
You're part of
Hey,
the Bud Club.
You're the. I hated how much I like that.
That is our bud plug for the night.
Oh no! I hated that more.
I'm gonna tell my wife about that one. That one was really good, Scott.
That's gonna be the spicy sticker that you get made. It just has Scott's
It's gonna
face
say
on
Bud Plug.
This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. You know what my favorite part about that rant was? Because we have a document that we kind of share to make sure that we're following times and stuff. Scott always lists his topic and then he blacks it out so we don't look at it. I saw him highlight it so he could remember what he wanted to rant about. He forgot, so he had to like reveal it to himself.
I'm gonna be honest. You know how I do these? I'm just like working and like, you know what? That kind of annoys me. Actually, that really annoys me. This would be a great Scott Porter Pie rant. And I stop what I'm doing at work and I just whip out the document and I just type it ahead of time. It's like, all right, this is some grade A material right here. Can't forget this stuff.
This is
gotta catch the lightning in the bottle.
Well, now that the lightning in the bottle has been caught, I think it's time for us to say our goodbyes. We thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Reminder, we do this for free, so you should just give us a like, subscribe to the channel. You can check us out at our respective things, except Scott, he's a hermit that definitely doesn't live in a van. You can check out Mike, Bauertendo, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all those things. I am Celiac Matt, Celiac_Matt on Twitch. Come check us out. Tell us how great we are. Tell us how much we suck, whatever it is. We'll catch you next week. Thank you for hanging out. And just by listening and watching, you are a bud. Watch out. We might bust those balls.